Dawson's Rambles.
Hey YouTube, Dawson Rider here with a little bit of Gotchard news today to talk about yet another new form. Thank God, Gotchard's been starving for meaningless forms, but I didn't know this one was coming. I guess it was a rumored one. I guess it kind of flew over my head. So we have Iron Gotchard. We have a toy pic of it that gives an idea of the suit and the gimmick. There might be more pictures by the time I'm editing this, but as of right now, it's only like toy-related pictures, so that's what I'll be showing. If there's more pictures, I'll put them up at some point during the video. I want to talk about it aesthetically and then story-wise first, but then I'm going to have a little bit of a rant and discussion about the forms, so be prepared for that. Or, you know, you can just watch the main part about the news and then leave before I just go foaming at the mouth. No, I'm just kidding. But also, I hate Hotro. I have to say that in every video now. Like, hey YouTube, Dawson Rider here. Welcome to my review for King Hotro episode 47. Hotro's the worst. As far as aesthetically, I really love all the Gotchard forms. I mean, not all of them are my absolute favorite, but I don't think there's very many that I would say I hate. I would say generally I'm really on board for the aesthetic of the series. That's one of the few things I actually really like about it, and this form is no exception. I think it looks great, probably one of my favorite power-up forms. Maybe my favorite, like, main power-up form so far. It's got kind of a black-gold contrast. It's got kind of like an iron cagey feel to its visor, reminding me of like Tokusatsu and Ryusoldier. Very cool. Some people have brought up some similarities to Legend, mainly because of the black gold color scheme, thinking maybe him coming into the series is going to have something to do with it, because if you didn't know, Legend is going to be coming back into the series in some capacity. There's been rumors of him having a more significant role, as, again, there's been lots of rumors about Gotchard, like, not doing so well, so they're doing these revampy things, hence the new era with Daybreak Gotchard, the new writers, and Legend was in the poster recently. He was kind of in the background, but he's going to be coming in. I don't know if it's going to be, like, more regular, or it could end up being, like, the Ryusoldier thing in, or not Ryusoldier, God, I was just talking about Ryusoldier, that's why, Kyoryuger thing in King Hotro, where it was kind of significant, but some of the early rumors made it seem like he was going to be a regular cast member. We don't know. That was just a long-winded way of saying Legend might have something to do with it. I also saw a couple people speculating that it might be a Berserk form, which, if you didn't know, is a trend where the writer will get some sort of form that, I mean, it's self-explanatory, that makes them go out of control in Berserk, which I absolutely hate. I don't hate the idea, I just hate how much it's done. This is the new form. You got the new gimmick device that allows you to transform into it. The device looks overall cool. I'm pretty indifferent to the designs of the gimmicks this year. No, I don't love them or hate them. They're just kind of fine for me. But again, I really do like the suit. I want to say that. I like the suit a lot. And story-wise, I will be interested to see how it comes about, if it does have anything to do with Legend. I don't necessarily hope it does, but I hope it's not a Berserk form. That's definitely something I don't like. Like I just said a second ago, I don't mind the idea of that story, of a Berserk Rider form idea. Like, I don't just hate that story by itself, but we do that so often, it's insane. Thankfully with Geats, we didn't really do it. I think, which I'll probably touch on in a second during my rant, because I have that planned, is it was more about him being exhausted, but we've had so many series lately that have had that. It's like the writer goes berserk and then he gains control over it and gets a new form. I think actually, thankfully, 0-1 did it sort of with Metal Cluster Hopper, but they oddly enough didn't lead to a slight evolution. It just gets really repetitive in an already repetitive series, and I wish they could come up with other reasons to explain slight evolution. This is all speculation, it might not be a Berserk form. This brings up the question of, like, I didn't know this was on the horizon. I thought that we were gonna be getting a little bit of a break before presumably the mid-series form, and I've talked a lot actually in recent weeks, whether it's Gotchard or my suit discussion videos about categorization. I feel like I keep saying, why does this fandom care about categorization? And then I keep talking about it. Now, maybe a little bit of hypocrisy there. It's more about, I don't care about the categorization, to be honest. It's not a big deal to me. I legit see people arguing about, I still see people arguing about, like, is Majay the secondary writer? Who cares? You want to think of her as a secondary writer? Fine. If you want to think of her as a third writer, if you want to think of her as Jeff, who works at the taco shop, that's your prerogative. It doesn't matter. My thing is more so with coming to Gotchard with these more super forms and these main power-up forms. It's not about, like, what you categorize them as, like the UFO and T-Rex and this form and Fire Gotchard. I don't care if, like I said, if you want to call them all Jeff, if you want to call them Jeff, Bob, and Henry, I don't give a fork. I don't care what you categorize them as. It's pathetic stuff. Who cares about this stuff, man? But my thing is like, we have so many super forms now, and I think that it kind of like when everyone's super, no one will be. You expect a lot of those one-off ability forms at the beginning of the series. I've complained in multiple season reviews of like how those debut back to back to back, and they don't all need a big storyline or whatever. I just think there should be breathing room. But at the end of the day, that's not such a big deal, because you kind of expect that. They knock out all those ability forms. You know, there is an issue there with like they knock those out and then they just get thrown away, and it's like, I know it was for merchandising, but Revice did a good job, actually, I have to say. They actually brought in those ability forms quite a bit. I think that was maybe because they spent so much time on them for the anniversary. I don't know. Regardless, though, that's kind of a non-issue because you don't expect a big storyline for this year's water form. Then you have, like, the main forms. And, like, back in my day, you basically just had your main form, you had, like, a mid-series powerful upgrade, and then the final. And then over the years, they've done more with, like, super forms and slight evolutions or whatever. And it's gotten kind of confusing. And again, it's not so much about caring about the categorization. It's just about, I think they're oversaturating a little too much. And then with that oversaturation, they make a lot of the forms feel disposable. And even with this slight evolution thing, I feel like I've been able to keep track of it. I'm like, okay, so there's this power-up, and then it's kind of got these related ones. But now I'm like not sure what's going on. Like I thought that, again, this isn't about caring about the categorization, it's about how many forms there are. Okay, so UFO and T-Rex were supposed to be the first significant upgrade. I'm like, okay. And then we do this Fire Gotchard thing. I'm like, okay, so that's actually the significant upgrade. And then what is this? Maybe it's going to be related to Fire Gotchard? I don't know. It just feels like there's too many main upgrades, and it makes the other ones feel less meaningful. And that's been one of my least favorite trends in recent years in regards to kind of the slight evolution stuff, is there have been some series that have better than others, but for the most part, when you do this, it makes everything feel very meaningless. And I know, again, I'm not the target audience. I acknowledge that. I'm not saying this because I want Toei to change, or I think they should change because I think I'm right. Even when you are the target audience or the target country, never listen to the fans. They're morons, including me. This is just my thoughts, a way of ranting. And I just think that writers lost the plot a little bit, and literally. I mean, obviously it's a merchandise-driven genre. It always has been. But I feel that we've gotten so oversaturated, you have a harder time hiding it. And for me personally, I don't know how kids in Japan feel, because it's probably very different. I'm just saying my opinion. When I was younger, and even now, when I collect something, I usually get more excited if I'm into the show. Like if I'm really enjoying the show and a new toy comes out based on a new form or a bike or whatever, I'm way more excited about it when it's given a good story and like I'm into the show in general. But if it has a specifically cool story, that's happened so many times even now. It's like I'll watch a story like, oh man, I really love that debut for the form. Like not only do I like the design, but the story was cool. I want to get it. So that would like benefit it. But now it just seems so like shallow that there have been some cases, admittedly, where I will really like something specifically about a form or a gimmick that's so niche or nice. Sorry, I had to do it. It's so specifically like odd or like I have to buy that even though I don't like the show. But for the most part, it helps to be invested. Even like when I was doing more regular reviewing and I knew that the item was going to be shipping to me anyway, it would be more exciting to be like, oh man, I really love that debut. Can't wait for it to arrive. Anyway, bit of a side tangent there. The point is there's just too many of the super form, like the main upgrades now, where it's becoming like they're the ability forms. Like we have too many of them, and one of my least favorite trends, circling back to before that little mini rant within a rant, it's like a Russian nesting doll egg thing of rants. Anyway, I'm getting into a Russian nesting doll of that. You do these slight evolution forms, usually like you have like the berserk form or whatever, and then it's like, oh, we need to fix this, and we get a new form, and then the other form is mostly forgotten about. There are series that are better at this. Like Bill did a pretty good job at that, where you had Black Hazard, and then to like control the berserkness of it, you had Rabbit Tank, but he still would use a Black Hazard form once in a blue moon, including like some variants of it with like Hawk Gatling and stuff, because sometimes he would just need that quick power boost. And I liked that because it kept it around. It was cool. Same thing with Geats. You know, they did a different thing with, I'm sorry, I can't remember for the life of me the power up, but this was like the mid-series power up, the one that was like the Red Fox, and then you had the Jin hybrid. That was cool because like it wasn't like I'm going berserk. It was, he kind of just get tired easier, so the Jin one kind of made it easier to deal with when he transformed into it. So that was at least something different. It wasn't the most interesting thing, but it was at least different. I still sometimes use that when it's like, I just need to be fast, quick, and you transform into it. I appreciated that. So there are cases sometimes where they'll keep it in rotation, but then there's also series like Saber, we like never saw Primitive Dragon again after that. Or Revice, we never saw Jack Revice again. And I hate that. I know it's merchandise driven, but it almost makes you feel like you're being duped when they're like, here's the new form and the new gimmick, go buy it. And then they just like, nope, bye, it's gone, here's the new one. And there's just too many of that. And this just reminds me of that. I think Gotchard has been so shallow where it's mostly just been about the forms. And it also sits in a weird spot for me because I do love the Toku designs. You know, there are some series where Rider or Sentai, when I'm specifically seeing how they're designed, where I like it so much that I want to see more designs. I'm like, oh, I want to see more forms and riders because I'm curious what they come up with. In this case, like, that's one of the only things I'm really enjoying about Gotchard is the forms, but it's like, man, this is just too much. Like, what is this? I feel like I'm in a loop where they just keep debuting the super form. I'm like, okay, that was the super form arc. What's up next? The super form arc. I'm like, okay, so that's over now. What's after that? Oh, it's the super form arc. Sorry about that little mini rant. But bottom line is, this is in the pipeline. I'm at least interested to see if this does have anything to do with Legend. And I actually almost forgot about Legend's involvement because we've been debuting Majade and then now Valvarad, so I'll be curious to see what his role will be in the show. But what do you think of this form? Do you think that there's too many forms and they need to cool it a little bit? I don't think they will, because obviously the money side is working for them, but I would love for them to find a little bit more of a balance where, even if we're going to be getting a lot of forms, to amp up the quality of the story, to give a more natural reason for them to feel like they exist, as well as more of a reason to invest in them. That was one strong suit of Geats, I think, was the format of the game show or whatever, and the way the power-ups worked. Like, you knew the toy angle was there, but it felt organic with the way that it worked. Like, okay, it makes sense you're cycling all this stuff out. So it'd be nice if they could find something like that. But anyways, guys, until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and climb the steps and ring that bell to get notifications for my videos. Dawson Rider, signing out.